If I don't do this, what happens? Nothing. I just wake up tomorrow, I keep doing my school job, I keep not knowing what I'm doing next. Anybody else just really fed up? I was browsing on reddit.com and I saw a post. I'm 35 years old or I'm 40 years old and I'm just fed up, guys. I'm working 9 till 5 and I have my 3 kids and my wife and I don't even have a couple of $1,000s in savings, and I've got I'm maybe one car breaking down from a real emergency here on my hands, and it's really a shame. I want to be open and honest. Like, I don't really resonate with these type of posts that much, and I don't say that to brag or show off or anything like that. It's not like I'm like a multi-millionaire or anything like that, but I don't resonate. I look at these posts and I don't want to say, oh, you can do something about it, because it's not always the case. It's not always like somebody can just go and get a better job, a higher paying job or something. But speaking to you guys who are in music education, like the vast majority of you, you're self-employed and you earn your own income. But yeah, I do see a similar amount of struggle and difficulty. I used to be teaching in a high school, teaching music. I was passed over for a promotion for the 3rd year in a row. And I just thought, how can I be like on the same salary after 3 years? I was making all these projects in the school and doing a lot of training outside, personal development stuff that was putting more qualifications on my CV, that kind of stuff. And so I just got tired, and in the end I started looking around for help on how to change the situation. And I remember what I did was I spoke with an online training program, which I thought was like a scam. I thought, this is a really weird thing, because I was teaching abroad at the time. This is how to live abroad without teaching or without being employed, that kind of thing. And so I saw this ad and I thought, that just sounds like BS to me. But this was the limit of my knowledge at the time. I was so sheltered about business and I knew nothing, that I didn't fully even think anyone could even live abroad without teaching. It's crazy. Like, obviously people can do that. And so I reached out to these people and they got me on a Zoom call, and I spoke with my coach and one of his team. But anyway, I spoke to one of his team, and I remember him asking me questions like, so what's your situation now, Liam? I was like, yeah, I'm commuting like 3 hours a day. I'm earning something, it was like $2,500 a month, something like that, $3,000 maybe. I was doing extra stuff after school. I couldn't see my wife. She worked on a different side of the city. I worked on the other side of the city. It was just crazy. My savings were like not that great. Like, we were saving for a house, but it was like pretty pitiful. I had 5K in savings or something like that. Anyway, and so the guy, he broke it down for me. Glenn, he's a good friend now, to be honest. But he broke it down. He's like, hey, so Liam, you're working 12-hour days at the moment, if you include all your commute time. I didn't realize it. And he says, you know, what we can do with you, if you've got some time to spare, is we can help you set up a business working with other companies, helping them with their advertising and marketing. And we'll train you on how to do that. And I said, okay, that sounds cool. And then when he gave me the price to do that, I was fully aware of my situation, how much I didn't like it and how much I wanted it to change. Because in my eyes, it was like, I can keep going on forever. I can keep staying in this situation, teaching for 12 hours a day and not getting the situation I want, and other sorts of things. I was thinking like, oh, we have to save this house, but then I need to do a PGCE so I can teach in England, because I wasn't qualified to teach in England. So, and there was all sorts of stuff that was just out of my hands. And then there's this guy who's at the end of the Zoom call saying to me, yeah, we'll just teach you a new skill if you want, and so you can work independently on your own without having to be beholden to an employer, essentially. I was like, okay, that sounds cool. But like, I'd never done anything like that before. It was crazy. And then he gave the price, and it was like £3,000. I was like, whoa, that's like a lot more than I thought. And then instantly the alarm bells go off. I'm like, this is a scam? This is definitely a scam, right? £3,000? Like, I'm just gonna give this guy £3,000? But it took me about 5 seconds to take my breath and think, okay, if I don't do this, what happens? Nothing. I just wake up tomorrow, I keep doing my school job, I keep not knowing what I'm doing next. Do I get this PGCE? Do I not? My wife doesn't want to live outside of her own country anymore, and we're trying to get there, and it was so hard to try and figure it out based on my qualifications, her qualifications, our job prospects, savings, all that kind of stuff. I'm just looking at my life in front of me without taking this risk, just going, I can see what's going on. I can see that I'm more or less stuck, not able to make certain decisions. I didn't actually ask my wife the choice. I was like, okay, £3,000. If this is a scam, then it's a scam. And then I'm scammed. But on the other side, I've never done anything like this before, and maybe it's real. Maybe it's true. And so I took a breath, and thankfully she was out, because if she was in, I certainly would have asked her, and then we probably would have gone the cautious route and said no. But anyway, I said, let's see what happens. I don't know what's gonna happen if I do this. Like, I'm giving myself an option. If I say yes to this guy, let's see what happens. And so I did that. I didn't actually have the 3K right in my bank account that second, because I needed to move some stuff around, but I gave him what I had in terms of a deposit. And it turned out not to be a scam, which was nice and safe. The guy stayed on the Zoom call with me. I was like, okay, that's a good sign. He hasn't just disappeared forever. So that was nice. And he said, okay, so let's get you sorted out. So he got me my training materials, what I needed, and my support, my one-on-one coaching and guidance. Anyway, turned out not to be a scam, and the rest was history for me. I took it by its horns and decided, you know what, I'm gonna try and take this training very seriously. As I said, like, I had a lot of commuting time and school time, but in my planning hours in school, which I was already tired of, I was like, yeah, I'm not planning my lessons anymore. I'm just going to get into this training. And so I started goofing off my job a little bit, because I was like, okay, I'm starting this business. And so I started putting all my time in around my work and in my free time into this business, and eventually got it set up. And ultimately, I found a new path. I found a choice, a place that I could, and a way for me to not be fed up with things. So I gave myself leverage by taking a chance on a path that wasn't knowledgeable about. I couldn't see the future with that path, right? It was such an unknown to me that if I said yes to this person, that was it. That was the extent of the knowledge. And so I did that, I took it, and from that I've obviously learned a lot more, and that was exactly what I needed. I needed some help. I needed somebody who had experience and knowledge that I didn't have, and to support and guide me and pull me along. And that's what I had. That's what I chose. And from there, I've now built a business which allows me to not resonate with those posts on Reddit. So I see these posts on Reddit, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, I'm no longer fed up. I'm no longer tired. I don't worry about the commute time and the savings and stuff like that. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to say things are changeable. There's knowledge and systems out there and guidance and support that you probably haven't tapped into yet. And yes, it could be very easy for me to say, oh, just make a change, oh, just do it better, go and do something crazy. And you might not think, oh, Liam, I can't afford £1,000 to just take on a chance. And you might not be able to, but you also might be able to. In my case, I probably couldn't have. In some sense, like, it would probably be very painful if it didn't work out. I'd be £3,000 down, but over the course of a year or so, it wouldn't have really affected me that much, given that I was employed at the time, so it was going to be replenished eventually, right? That amount of savings. If you are fed up, just know that there are other options out there that might be able to alleviate and completely change your trajectory, like mine was. And yes, those options may be somewhat expensive sometimes. It's like, I'm going to be more of an expert in this tiny bit of knowledge of music. I don't see how that's going to change your situation. And typically they don't have an answer. They're looking for something. They're looking for something to help them, some way to change the situation. Anyway, the point is, people are looking for help. People are looking for a direction and a way to alleviate their difficulties. And it's not necessarily private, it's not necessarily university education that's going to do that, or traditional thinking that's going to do that. There are a lot of methods and clever people out there, including, I would say, I'm probably quite a helpful person for a lot of music educators these days. I'm not going to toot one's own horn. I'm sure there's a lot of people in here that I probably could help with their situation. but you don't know until you try. So that was the big thing for me. Like, I wasn't sure if I turned away and said no to Glenn, no, I'm not paying that £3,000, I wouldn't have ever known. I would have just gone through my life and I wouldn't have known what could be. So I ask you, what could be if you take the chance? What could be? How different could things be if you take the chance? So anyway, I'll leave it here, but just something to think about, because I don't want you guys to be fed up, because Christ, life's too short to be fed up. 35, 40 years old, like still finding life difficult. Obviously life's always going to be difficult philosophically, but still finding life just like a dreary, trudging existence of barely treading water. That doesn't sound fun to me. I'm sure it doesn't sound fun to you, but I think a lot of people don't even believe it can be changed. It can be changed. You just need to look in the right place.